welcome to the Football 360 show coming at you live on X as well as YouTube. You can catch us possibly on the Facebook. Always catch us on Spotify as well as Apple in podcast audio version only, as well as find everything Football 360 show related, including old episodes on football360show.com. Matt Bierman is here with me. I am JP Rock. What's going on, Matt?
It's going.
Yeah, it's going.
Yeah.
Got anything good going on?
Excited to be here.
Anything good going on the phone?
Just putting out the information that we are ready to roll.
Oh, there you go.
Yep, on the Twitter feed.
There you go. So another episode going on here. What's going on football-wise in your world?
It's that time of year where it's
getting busy, man.
Busy. Yeah, it's really busy. From January through August, we are slammed. And so, it has, different peaks and valleys for different times of year.
Yeah.
Right now, we got a ton of training, a lot of speed and agility, strength development. Then, obviously the flag football is going for our younger guys. And then the 7v7 program going with Midwest Boom. So we got tournaments left. We got 4 tournaments left. And that'll get us through the spring. And then we'll have some more combines, Lindenwood camp, and then some youth summer camps and middle school summer camps. So it's pretty good deal. This Saturday, though, we're going to have an event with our guys out of Midwest Boom in Chicago. It's a trench warfare. So they're bringing guys down. We did this a number of years ago. So they're bringing some linemen. So they do a lot more team-based activities with big men, and then competitions with each other. So it should be kind of fun. That's 12:30 to 2:30 at Elite on this coming Saturday.
Cool.
So we'll have guys participating in it, but they kind of run the show a little bit with it. So it should be kind of fun to see how that goes.
Cool. Yeah, football really is a year-round sport. There's no downtime. I would say, there's downtime from the playoffs and then the final championship up until maybe January, but not really. Because you have 7-on-7 tryouts going on.
Yep.
Sometimes during the playoff. Well, this past year during the playoffs, and then you have 7-on-7 tryouts happening throughout December, as well as people are trying to move camps up and combines. It's that close to the end of it, which is ridiculous. But then come January, you really have some hardcore stuff, like you said. Training starts or should start for everybody.
Yeah.
Really in earnest, and then 7-on-7. You have 7-on-7. It's 30 degrees outside. It's in the 20s, whatever. 7-on-7.
Yeah, there's certainly days where I'm like, well, what are we doing out here? And it gets so cold, and the kids enjoy it, but they don't enjoy it that much, to be out there in 20-degree weather.
No.
So, it seems like there's always high winds wherever we're at. So.
Right. But now, it's really kicking off. Combine season really starts with the Elite Combine happening. And from here on out, it's camp, combine, 7-on-7. I mean, it's just nonstop. Every weekend there's something going on. My schedule is just
spring games. There's junior days. All those things are going on, and so I think a lot of people are get kind of confused when all of it kind of hits. But a lot of that pre-planning takes place in the winter, right? So if you missed like the first round of combines, you really need to be looking for late April, early May. I get messages all the time like, hey, should we do this one? Should we do this one? A lot of them. I see there's very few big national ones anymore, other than like the rivals and people like that doing like the showcase camps, if you will.
You'd be surprised the ones popping through though.
But there's a lot of smaller, mom and pop or guys that are like just doing them, regionally. And then they have like a crew that tries to, travel around, kind of like the national underclassmen used to do back in the day.
Yeah, the UC report, they've been coming to Missouri the past 3 years. They're not coming to Missouri this year at all. They're going down to Nashville and, having local guys. I'm not sure why that is. The talent in Missouri and the surrounding areas, Kansas, Illinois, Iowa, is at its peak. So why they would just, flip that script and change it up?
Because I think a lot of times they probably don't look at it the detail that they probably should, right? I mean, they know, but they like a lot of these combines are just for gathering information, right? For
it's like 100% what it is.
That's what it
data.
is.
It's data gathering.
It's either data gathering or it's writing stories on guys that already have offers. I mean, that's the vast majority of, like, let's say the higher level Rivals and
UC Report really has
UC
been
Report.
the big one, because Rivals and all those, that's 100% a cattle call. They want,
Yes.
they want your information.
Yep.
They don't know what they don't know, and rather than go out and really kind of find that information like some people do,
Yeah.
it's much easier. Hey, you come to me.
Right. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are pretty opportunistic with the combines and showcases
100%.
where, let's just be honest. Once you start getting in that May timeframe, if they're not college associated with it,
Right.
if it's not a scholastic event, like on a campus of a high school, or if it's not on the campus of a college, don't waste your time.
Or even like, I mean, the only two combines or combine type deals that come through Missouri is Elite, that's the one, and KC Varsity, which KC Varsity is going to be in May, late April, May, and colleges. They're going to have about 40 colleges. They're smaller colleges primarily, but they're going to be there, and that's worth your while. Like you said, exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, because you want to have the school. So like right now, this time of year, the colleges aren't really out there because they're doing their spring balls. They're doing junior day visits. They're doing a lot of things on campus.
Yeah.
As well as they're in a, non-contact period with, off campuses. So if you look at it from those perspective, as you start to get later into the spring, some of that starts to loosen so they can start to, do observations of athletes off campus. But the NCAA is pretty explicit about, they want you to be on to be a scholastic event if they're going to have the big schools there, and then if they're going to have the FBS schools, they need it to be university led, because there was, back in the day, they used to run Nike camps and every college coach would show up at these things, and it got so outlandish that like they had to be traveling every weekend to go to these things, otherwise they got left out on some of the top prospects.
Right, and
that's all gone.
It's all gone. So so Elite, KC Varsity, and then the St. Louis Metro one that you guys also run. That
that's Monday, May 13th,
and that's a good one for guys to go to as well.
It's really unique because the high school coaches all come in if they're part of the St. Louis Metro Football Coaches Association, and they do a round robin. They have tables, and then the college coaches will go around and talk to those coaches about their players, right?
Yeah.
And then they do that for about an hour and a half, and then they transition to the field, which we've already warmed the athletes up at that point, and we have a full combine going then with one-on-ones. So it's a really good deal because you get, the high school coach can be there to talk to them about it.
Right. And then the college
coach can come right out to the field. So all you parents and players, make sure your high school coach is at that event.
Right. And then the Big Daddy, the mega camp at Lindenwood is just awesome. And I see where they're getting close. They're filling up fast because the word is definitely out by this time.
So
that's the place to be. If you want to go, if you want to go to if you can only go to one college camp,
that's it.
That's it.
So I was talking to Coach Baldwin the other day. He's our point man for all the setting up and logistics of
you guys run that as well.
We help run that with Lindenwood, and we've been really blessed to do that. And we when the new staff came in, there was a great opportunity to really reform how that camp was running, because it was not going in a great direction. It was a lot of kids would show up.
Oh yeah, about 600.
Yeah, but it was all at one time.
Right,
it was just a really rough deal, and so like they kind of changed the format, right? But at the same time, with respect to the former staff, mega camps weren't really a big thing at that time. No. So we went the route with Lindenwood to help kind of design and lay it out. Mark Lillibridge was involved. He's now the GM of the I think San Antonio Brahmas for the UFL.
Really?
So yeah,
I heard he was in Houston, I guess.
Yeah, so they changed that. All that thing changed when it went from XFL to UFL. But so Mark was involved. Myself, obviously, Coach Stugart, and then Brian Baldwin and Dusty Havorka, all the guys over at Lindenwood, and kind of came up with a better mousetrap to say, hey, here's how we should do this. This is the best way to schedule the day and get people checked in and flow them in and out off the field. And it's worked extremely well. And we get compliments from the vast majority of the colleges there saying it's the best. And we've had teams reach out to us about doing it for them. Logistically, it's just not the same as having all of our people here.
Right.
That we know and trust, going, because a lot of these camps, and that's the other thing, you'll show up at these, big combines, national combines, and a lot of the people running the stations are not coaches. They're just volunteers.
Yeah.
Right. And so, gets tough. I mean, it gets really tough because a lot of them just don't think they're there for the experience, right?
Right.
And
There's that, and the reps are more difficult to come by.
I mean, yeah, we at our last combine a couple weekends ago, there's no
Okay.
complaints about reps. I talked to the kids about before, we've talked about on the show, like stepping up, asserting yourself, take reps, do not be a wallflower, don't sit back, because at some point someone's watching you, right? And if you're shying away from reps, that's usually a sign that you're really not confident, right? And it's also a sign that maybe you haven't prepared enough.
Yeah.
And so coaches want to see people that assert themselves. They don't want to see guys coming and being jerks and jumping every rep and being that guy, but they want to see people that are alphas stepping in the front of the pack and leading. So when you're at these camps, Lindenwood's another great example of it. The KC Combine will be the same deal as well. You got to step up and get your reps, because if you don't, someone else will take them. So we had quite a few kids, and we went pretty long with our rep package this year, and I think it was well received. Kids really liked it, and again, got plenty of film.
They loved
plenty
it.
of film.
I got nothing but glowing. I always do, but nothing but glowing responses and reviews of the combine. And this is, the Elite Combine. It's not just St. Louis kids. You got kids coming from everywhere. You got them from Illinois. You got a lot of kids from Kansas, places out in Kansas, Iowa, Mississippi. You name it.
Kentucky,
and they come up and they do their thing, and they're just So it's really the best of the best, top guys from all over the region that come into it. It's not just somebody who rolls into town. Hey, all you St. Louis guys, come in here and do that. But what really shocked me was just the level of talent that there is, going all the way down to 2028s.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys, some of those guys were just putting up really great numbers, really competing hard, really going good. And also the repeat guys who come back, year after year after they do it, because they want to better themselves. They want to see how they've progressed. They want to see what they continue to need to work on. And, out of the MVPs, those guys are repeat guys who've been to the combine. And guess what? Now they're, we're nominated there, 4 of them, for the All-Star American Cancer Society All-Star game that's happening later on. And, like you have Charles Brooks was one of them. Cardinal Ritter, defensive end edge, who's committed to Northern Illinois. You have Tristan Abram, who has double-digit D1 offers, CBC. Preston Brown, quarterback, just phenomenal. Might be the most athletic quarterback.
And slept on quarterback
in a huge class in Missouri, but might be the most athletic of them, which is saying a lot, because they're all really good athletes. Brady Davidson was there. He was one of those guys. And I just did a report on quarterbacks, and it's like guy. You know what I mean? Not having to search for guys.
No. And then Robbie Preckle was
the last one. Another D1 athlete.
Yep. Just he's going to start getting more offers. Same with Preston Brown.
Yeah.
So, you look at like the guys that are not afraid to compete, right? The guys, Hoyt Gregory, he's got offers. He's coming in to compete.
One of those quarterbacks. Yeah. I had put up really great numbers too.
Hey, and it's a news flash, but when you go to college, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have to compete. I mean, that's the mindset. If you're serious about being a football player, you're going to have to compete wherever you're at, whether that's in high school. Maybe you're the best guy on your high school team and you're not really being pressured. Well, you got to internally compete in that scenario, right? You got to push yourself further. You got to push yourself, have coaches around you pushing you, but internally you need to be able to do that. But as you jump to that next level, make no mistake, those guys are really good. Like, those guys are there to play. They're serious. They have passion for the game. They have skill, size, all the measurables that go into being a great player. They have that as well. And so the problem is if you believe that you can just coast, right? I always say the only time you're coasting is when you're going downhill, right? You don't coast going uphill, you're going to go backwards.
Right.
So if you try to do that and you have a mindset of, oh, I already made it, the game's going to pass you by. It's as simple as that, because at the end of the day, there are a lot of guys that want to be where you want to be, right? And so you have to persevere, you have to work, you have to be persistent with what you do, but have a solid plan of how you're going to get there. But setting back and resting is not one of those components.
No, you don't want to rest on your laurels. And one of the things that really impressed me about Hoyt Gregory was, and I put in my report on quarterbacks, was Hoyt came up to me and said, "What would you like to see me throw?" That's the stuff right there.
That's somebody that's present.
What throw do you want to see me make? Absolutely.
Right.
He knows. He gets it. Right. He's there to showcase his skill set.
Mhm.
He no hesitation, no doubts about his skill set. Of course, he trains hard. That's his day. Brady Davidson, same thing. Those guys, big time D1 quarter, they have D1 offers. They want to come and they want to showcase and prove themselves continuously.
Yep.
And that's what college football is. That's what you just went to the black spring game. That's what spring practice is. You're constantly trying to better improve yourself. You're the guy.
Yeah, and it's constant. Whether you're Brady Cook,
Yep.
right, or you're one of the new running backs trying to push and fill the void that Cody Schrader left, you're still working. Like if you're Brady Cook, you're working to better yourself so your team's in a better position this year than last, which is going to be tough to do, right? Because they were top 8 in the country.
Right.
But what do? You work harder. You don't like after the game that evening, I talked to Brady at the game. He came over. We were down on the field, which was a great experience. We got all of our 7-on-7 guys down the field. We did a little tour, and they even roped off a little section in the stands for us. It was well done, first class. Could not give any more accolades to Coach Drink and Coach Russell down at Mizzou. They treated us really well, and but Brady runs over. We're shooting the breeze before the game. They're in their warm up period before they come out as a team. And he was just feeling good, But then that night, we're talking, and he sends me a message, and we was talking about like, hey, talking about arm care, things like that, how his body's feeling. Those are things where you have to be tapped into where you are in the process, right? And being self-aware of when your body's feeling a little fatigued, when your arm's a little fatigued, whether it's your legs, whatever position you're playing. But for quarterbacks, the arm becomes a critical component when you're throwing a ton through the spring. Like he's throwing a lot, and I would say, and this is not a knock on anybody, he's probably throwing a lot because they don't have a lot at the quarterback position right now underneath him.
That's true.
That's why they brought in a backup because Horn was there with him. Full arm brace for his Tommy Johns.
Yeah.
So he's out. I mean, he looks the part, obviously. But Drew Pine came in.
That's always been the thing on him.
Yeah, he looks the part.
He always looks the part.
He looks the part. Yeah. But Brady did extremely well. They put him with, let's say, the younger receivers. They still had good success. But they added some good pieces. Toriana Pride looked really good.
Always, yeah.
Sterling Webb looked really good. You got to see Talon Chandler playing some center. He played on the black and gold team.
Yeah. Bright future there, man.
Yeah.
Get to know the name because that's going to be your future starting center.
Yeah. And just a lot of fun. It was a very family environment. I mean, it was a good feel, but
good crowd too. Good.
I don't know what the final numbers were, but it was good. It was, my guess would be 20,000.
Best one since the Pinko years when they were doing,
So yeah, but the advice to all you guys that are high school guys or rising into college, if you or even a middle schooler, if you believe that you've made it, you're done. Tony Adams said it last week. He made something. He's like, when you've made it, it's time to retire.
Well, that's the thing. Brady Cook is still trying to prove himself.
Oh yeah,
right.
That
he's the man. He's there. And even though he doesn't have that competition at Mizzou right now, he's still treating it like he's trying to fight for his job.
100%. And
that's the right mindset.
And he is fighting to be nationally known, right? Yep. He's fighting to be a top draft pick. Like those are the things you're fighting for. Right. There's always something to be pushing for, right? And I think you can tell the tenor there though at Mizzou is really focused on. They believe they're a playoff level team, and that playoff level team it's worth a lot of money to the school and the SEC as a whole,
and the athletes themselves.
Yeah. So exactly. So it's such a cool deal, though. I mean, they got their bowl rings. They were there the night before. I got to see the bowl ring ahead of time. Dalton Demos, as far as like the image of it and like the video of it.
Oh, that's right.
Dalton Demos, who's one of our former elite guys. He was down there this week.
Former CBC quarterback. Yeah.
Absolute stud. He sold the rings to them. And I mean, cool. They are first class. They are huge. They look like Super Bowl rings.
Really,
So,
yeah.
but Dalton and I were on the field after the game talking to Brock Olivo, which was great to catch up with Brock, who's back coaching at Mizzou and a legend at Mizzou. And he recruited Dalton to Coastal Carolina.
Yeah.
And then we were just sitting there trading war stories about, we can get to Dalton's story down the line, but he probably one of the most tough recruiting things I've ever seen in my life as far as bad things happen, right? And then, just the whole
Dalton.
line of it. Yeah, it's just, crazy athlete, but anything that could go wrong in the recruiting, unfortunately for him. But you look, he is now a well-adapted young man. He's got a great job. He's doing great things.
He's a really good human being.
He is. And so it's more than just being the guy that put in the work when you were a kid. It turns into, what is that going to help you propel you to do in your life? And I think, football can be a trap. I'm sure basketball and other games could do the same thing, but football can be a trap because there's guys that will not let it go, right? And there's guys that probably should let it go because it is a game that is meant to be played between certain, there's an expiration date on all of us before it comes to playing tackle football. But he was a guy that transitioned out. I can show you a lot of guys that, can't quite let go.
Stay a little too long.
Or they get into coaching and then they use their shortcomings as a player to use that as a platform to railroad kids. I mean, that happens.
Seen a lot of that.
That happens.
Seen it on the college level too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see it at the high school. I've seen it at the college level.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate truth is the game, gave me a lot, but it's given me as a player, it gave me good amount. But as a coach, when you realize it's about other people and not yourself, it becomes a whole lot more fun to coach.
I was going to say
it becomes a whole lot more fun to coach because I'm down there. I didn't do the final count. We had 8 kids on the field that played for Midwest Boom.
Yeah.
Okay. And probably another 6 that were just got, like guys that are
came through elite. Trained.
Yeah. Right. So let's just call it 14-ish players out of 100. Yeah. So we're 15% of that team's represented by people that train in our facility. I'm pretty proud of that because I can't do that. I can't represent myself as 15 people. Never was I that good, or would I want to. Right. But you can give that gift to other people, and our organization has done that. And I feel pretty proud that we have that component going at the University of Missouri, and it's fun to be a part of that success. It's also fun to see guys persevere, like a Brady Cook persevere and Cody Schrader persevere. We got to spend time with Cody and talk to him at length about the process. He has a pro day this Friday. Nice. And he was feeling pretty good about it.
Well, what's interesting is you bring up Brock Olivo.
Yep.
Him and Cody Schrader have a lot in common.
Yes.
And especially when you take it back to, Brock didn't have that situation where he could go to a, D2 school and then transfer up. He persevered. He did what he did. He put himself in the right position and he got the opportunity, and that's all he needed. And so for guys out there who feel that they're slept on or they're not getting recruited heavily, keep in mind guys like him, guys like Cody Schrader. Those guys are learn their stories.
Yeah.
And use that to motivate yourself.
Brock Olivo's name's on the wall.
On the wall.
On the wall of the stadium. So just absolute stud.
Mm-hmm.
He squatted 780 as a freshman, which you don't see that anymore. I mean, again, we've kind of gotten past those days of like wild lifts. But look at the combine this year. Speed is everything. All positions, speed is everything. So, that's kind of a good transition to I can't tell you the number of times I'm talking to kids recently where, they're getting caught in traps. And I don't understand how this is still a subject with a lot of people. Like, the game is not about being big and bulky anymore. It is not.
It's specialized.
You look at the athletes, you look at how their bodies are shaped, and you look at how they move. This is no longer the big man, big bulky game, right? Like one of our guys, Michael Neese, who we're going to have come in, he was standing at the facility the other day, and I said to a couple of parents, "Oh yeah, he plays for the Detroit Lions." "Oh, what's he play?" "Oh, he's a center." "Oh, he's not that big." I said, "What do you think he weighs?" 260. I was like, "No, that's 305." That's what 305 really looks like when you're on a good frame.
Yeah.
And it's lean, right? And it can move well. not a sloppy 305, which we know what that looks like. That's not real pretty, right? This guy, that's what they all look like at that level.
Yep.
But he's not in there benching, squatting, power cleaning.
No.
He's working on his hip mobility.
Right.
He's working on his explosiveness. Those are things you need to be working on. And I see, and there's plenty of teams around town that are partnering and doing different programs as if we're playing in the 90s. The unfortunate truth is like, if you don't know what you're doing, training football players or athletes in general, you know, it's not about hypertrophy and getting big and bulky and all that stuff. It is not about that anymore. Like,
although if you can be 6'5", 260 and run like you're a wide receiver,
there you
move
go.
lightweight, that's what
Correct.
yeah.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
You want size that is functional size.
Correct.
You don't want size that is restrictive. So I got to tell you, like, I see quite a few guys, and I won't give the full story, but one of our athletes was in, and he was working with a particular guy, and his dad said, hey, he's gaining too much weight. And we had tested him on our force plates, and he didn't get the results he wanted, right? It was pretty obvious that he was a little stiff and did not explode like you think he would. It's like he did a year ago. And he's like, yeah, we're getting too bulky. This guy they're working out with has got him doing a lot of heavy weights. And so his brother, who's a college football player, called and said, Dad, what are they doing? Why do you have him squatting 400 pounds? He's moving it super slow. We don't do, and he's in a major Power 5. And he said, we have never done more than 185 pounds squatting because they move it fast. They move it through planes of motion fast, and it's for speed. It's not for, we've seen the guys that max out or go super heavy, bad form, and then it's everything they can do to get it up there. Well, yeah, that's great. But the problem is you're going to meet a guy who's been training himself to move faster, that has functionality and strength. A real world example. Had a kid come in the other day, college athlete. We jumped him on the force plates. I mean, he looks good. He's 6'3", probably 230, 225, 230. So good looking size. He's a tailback. Okay. Big. His size looks great. I mean, he's built. Everything looks great. He jumps. He's got strength of a middle school athlete. And so I related to a couple guys that know him, and they said, he doesn't lift. In the weight room, he doesn't lift. He never lifted. Well, you can't cheat. Aesthetics don't count when it comes to application of force and strength and, the fluidity, all of that. You can't cheat it. So, again, that's why you need to be around people that actually know what they're doing and get out of this mode of big and bulky. Wins the day. That won the day in 90s through the early 2000s, but no longer. Does not work.
It's not the same as like the old Big 12 days where they wanted you to be able to squat this amount.
Right. I mean, I played with a guy that squatted 1,000 pounds. Right. I mean, and no lie, he did 900 as a junior and 1,000 as a senior.
Or even throwing back to like a Dan Deerdorf, played for the Cardinals. He was like 6'3", 298, 300 pounds, right? Playing left tackle. Those days are gone.
Right.
That's over with. The game is speed. The game is quickness, agility, movement, mobility.
Yeah. So
no matter what you play.
So really be serious about what you're doing. Don't get led down the path of just thinking that's what you need to be. And understand, gaining weight is relative. It's how you put the weight on that really counts. Okay. Because you can gain when you're a younger athlete and you get on a lifting program. If it's good, you should theoretically gain weight.
There's good weight and bad weight.
But that's the problem is if you put on bulk and you start to layer it on, it's tough to bring it back off like that. It's just the way it works. So, our average guys on our off-season strength program in the first 6 months is 10 pounds. Over the first year, it's 28 pounds. Okay. So that's putting on a lot of weight. But if you look at the lifts that they're doing, they're not putting on bizarre weight, like in through their getting so chunky through their upper body,
right,
and get bulky through their legs so they can't move. It's all spread out throughout the body so they can utilize that force when they need it.
It's interesting when I'm evaluating offensive linemen and defensive linemen, you say bulky through their legs. That's how I'm easily able to differentiate who's a guy versus who isn't. When they have the big, thick cankles,
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to work in today's game. You want to have those lean, athletic ankles and calves, even if you're a 300-pound offensive lineman like you're
Correct.
talking about. That's an easy way. That's an easy spot,
Mhm.
and it always works out
It
that
proves out really
Yeah.
easily.
really easily.
So yeah, you look at Bill, but a lot of that, some is hereditary, right?
Yep.
But a lot of that is what you've done.
Genetics really matters.
Yeah, genetics do matter. but here's the deal: you can play into your genetics
Absolutely.
and make yourself worse or make yourself better.
Or you can always build yourself up.
Correct. And so having a plan, being around people that can help you understand like what it is you're actually trying to accomplish. I told the guy the other day, I said, hey, he was a big, strong guy in college, played in an era when it was big and strong was everything.
Yep.
And I just said, hey, just don't have your son doing powerlifting. He's already big enough. Get him strong. Get him powerful. Right. And
even when you like we just had the combine, right? Even in the testing, the 40, right? And obviously the jumps, but I don't think people realize powerful is what really counts in the 40 when you're running the 40.
Of course, yeah. And can you do things on one leg?
Yes.
These two-legged squatting, other than short of a lineman pressing somebody, when are you going to use that in football, right? A quarterback is on one leg the entire process. Once he starts his drop, it's all alternating steps. And when he finishes his throw, he's back on 2 feet. Some guys are on just their front leg. So one-legged components of training are far better. They suck. They're not fun, but they're far better, right? So again, I'll get on the pulpit here. You got to be aware of what you're being asked to do, and ask questions. Why are we doing this? What results can I expect?
Yeah.
So
with trainers or with your high school coach?
Well, with the high school coaches, the tough part is that a lot of the programs are dictated around just space of the weight room.
Yep.
They're there to get guys working out, so that's a tough one. But, if you can have that conversation with your coach in a non-condescending tone,
absolutely,
right? Not being a no.
Don't like, why do we? Don't do. Why do we have to do this?
Yeah, no. Like, but what can I expect? How does this benefit me? Because I will tell you, a lot of those programs probably have not gotten up to where they need to be as far as how programming has changed. And,
it can be tough,
And it is, because you're trying to do every kid. You have a bunch of different position groups, but inside of each position group, you have a bunch of different guys that are even unique to each other. Like every quarterback's not the exact same, right? Every running back is not the same. Every O lineman's not the same, right? You have the big, tall, lanky, left tackle and a squatty, strong, center. They're different, but all linemen are going to do the same program. They all need different things. And so, again, technology's gotten to the point where you can really see this. And I can tell you, like, we're having real conversations with college programs about how to better analyze the high school kids and the own kids on their roster. And I'm telling you, if you look at a simple force plate jump, it is amazing. Like when I was talking about the young man before, like that his teammates were like laughing. Like, yeah, that's exactly who he is. Like he's powerful. He's a little stiff. He's not very strong, right? And he's got good size to him. So his momentum was high. His power was high. His fluidity was okay. And his strength was really low. Right. So what would you do with a guy like that? Well, you got to address strength, right? You have to address the strength, because if your power and strength get too far off, then what are you? You're a potential injury risk, right? And the best ability is what? Availability. Because if you're in the training room, doesn't help.
No,
does not help. So I think kids got to really start to understand that and understand how the process works, and and start to ask questions. And if they don't have anybody they can ask the question, if they're going to a trainer, that person should really know what they're doing. But to be truthful, a lot do not.
Well, you know what's interesting is, I got a question the other week. Actually, it was probably before the combine, and it was from a parent, a kid who relayed from his parent. What was the benefit? Was it beneficial for somebody, as a freshman or eighth grader or sophomore even, to train or go to a combine, like the elite combine? Because some people want to wait. They think they can wait until they're junior, heading into their senior year, and then they're going to turn it on, and everybody's going to find them. So, do you want to go ahead and address that?
My personal opinion is that eighth grader who's the rising freshman, you only get 4 shots at it, right? So they're not even thinking high school yet because they're in middle school, but you only get 4 shots at it. So, and that's when I say 4 shots, I mean like the combine season and camp season going in, each year. Because when you're a senior, that's gone. You're going to college, so you're not going to any of these things. So yeah, as a rising eighth grader, you need to be really conscious of getting in there, gaining experience. You're playing with house money. Nobody's going to care if you run slow times, but it's also about showing improved scores over the years,
Progress,
right?
yep.
Progress. And the other thing is, it's worth its weight in gold for experience. The number of kids that do that combine or do a Lindenwood and then come back the next year and their eyes are not like way off going, oh my God, this is too much for me, right?
Yeah.
And then, because if you come in as a junior and you're not ready, you're pretty much screwed.
Yeah.
If you come in as a sophomore and your eyes are open to it, now you got 1 shot, right?
Right.
But as that eighth grader rising freshman, you have time to like formulate a plan, get back to the drawing board, work on it. You're more comfortable next time you come there. So it's interesting. I ran some simple averages, looking at the eighth graders, the ninth graders, 10th and 11th graders at the combine. And it's interesting. Every single test by group is the eighth graders are the slowest. They don't jump as high. Ninth graders do a little bit better. 10th graders do a good chunk better. Juniors do much better. Okay. Compared to where they started. So there's natural progress in that, right? As the group. But what you have to understand is there's the reason that's occurring is some of it's that these guys start to gain weight, get bigger, faster, stronger. They're getting in a lifting program. They're maturing as young men. Tough thing for the 40 when you're young, like an eighth grader, is you don't have a lot of mass unless you're like a really small guy that's really strong and powerful already, which those guys are probably towards the top end of their growth cycle, even for that age, even though they're shorter. That's a tough one because those guys will run fast, but they probably won't have much size to them. So it'll be like 125, 130 pounds. On the flip side, the gangly kid who's, got a good 10-yard start because he's quick, he cannot physically hold 40 yards and he just slows down too fast, right? At about 25, 30 yards, like,
they're
slowing down.
It's deceptive when you see them get off.
They're very slow. Yeah. Because they don't have there's no mass to them.
Right.
So there's nothing to keep the ball rolling down the hill. So those guys, it's tough, but you need to get that experience. And my opinion is, I'll tell you, I had my 7th grader do it this year just because he's been there as an observer for so many years. And he's kind of getting to that point where he wants to see where he's at. And, coming in as an 8th grader next year, he will have an advantage because he did it, right? And so, look back to a guy like Carson Boyd. Like
Carson came as a 7th grader, yeah.
Right. And so he did well. He threw and the tough thing was, like this year, watching those the one 7th grader and a bunch of 8th graders throwing, the defensive backs were a little bit older this year. Because all the younger receivers still want to play receiver, right? And not play DB yet. They'll figure it out eventually. But so there was 8th grade receivers going against some older DBs. And what I thought was interesting, you could already see the process playing out, right? And the receivers were figuring out what quarterbacks they wanted to throw to them. like I told my son, like, look, if someone comes over and wants you to throw for them specifically, that's a good thing. And it's a kid you don't know.
Right.
Right. And you know, you look at guys like I looked at Trevor Walker, who's an up, you know, rising freshman, had a pretty good day, right? But he also figured out like, hey, I have to stop going deep every time. He started running 5-10 yard routes, beating the DBs and gaining confidence, and then he hit him over the top. So look, you know, those guys, like he'll come back. A kid like a Trevor Walker will come back next year and be
exponentially.
He will look like a sophomore rising junior, and
when
those are the guys that get offers because they come in confident. Like, and I would argue you could even show up to Lindenwood and not be overwhelmed by it, right? And shine as a freshman, you know, a rising freshman. So, yeah, never be afraid to fail, right? I mean, if we learn nothing from Tony Adams last week, you know, like, don't be afraid to fail. Put it out there. Like no one's there to harm you. Like, we want to see you do well, right? But you also have to work for it. No one's there to give you anything, but you got to work for it. And part of the process is, you know, the number of times I had kids write me this last week and say, hey, I want to cancel, you know, check these scores off, scratch them. Multiple kids I wrote back and said, hey, are you sure? Because that is pretty damn good.
A lot of them don't know what
yeah, that's really good. And so there was a few that ended up saying, no, I really want to scratch it. And I'm thinking, like, what do you think you're going to run NFL times in high school as a sophomore? But, you know, there's some unrealistic expectations I think some kids or parents have on themselves, and not knowing what colleges are really looking for. If you're in the clubhouse within the general range and you have film that backs it up, that's all you need. Right? I mean,
Yep.
I mean, it's not too much. You don't have to go way over the top. Like, you don't need to run a 4.3.
No, especially when you're a defensive lineman. You're a 6'3", 230-pound defensive lineman.
Yeah.
And you're running in the 4.8 laser 4.9 range.
Keep it.
I know of one kid who just had really great numbers. You know, he's a sophomore.
Yeah.
And he was doing stuff like that, you know, almost 30-inch vertical, wanting to scratch numbers like that. It's like, no, son, you don't understand. That's good. You're not going to be. But again, the NFL Combine kind of like threw people off.
Yes.
As far as the young guys, the guys who came last year who were rising eighth graders who I knew were going to be good as freshmen and came back this year. They came last year as eighth graders. They're freshmen this year, already completed the level of comfort that they had this year compared to last year. Their eyes were like as big as some of these lights in here. Right. They were so relaxed and so smooth and so knew the process. And what I would tell people, and what I did tell this young person, is if you want to if you have aspirations to play college football, you can never start too early. I mean, obviously, I don't mean like, you know, sixth grade, you've got to do, but if you're an eighth grader, right, going to be a freshman, you want to start, you want to come to this, you want to see what it's all about. You want to find out where you are at as an athlete and as a player, what you need to work on, you know, and start the journey then. Because I got to tell you what, colleges are looking at guys younger and younger and younger. And this is why you're seeing guys who are eighth graders, you know, freshmen who've never played a game, you know, just coming off their freshman year, getting offers. And some guys are getting big offers. And the funny thing about that is some of those guys peaked and you can already tell it. Some of those guys who pulled in the big offers that everybody was wow about, and that they're contacting people like me and you and be like, well, how come nobody's offering me? You know, but you want to find out. It is a process, and if you want to go through that 4-year process, preparing yourself for your time, that is the way to do it. That's the move to make.
That's the move. So, and don't be afraid. Don't be intimidated. I mean, I will tell you, probably our biggest competitor, or competitive fact of people not coming in to train with us is they're a little apprehensive, and if they're being honest with themselves, they're scared of the environment.
Yeah.
And that is a terrible place to be, because you have to get over, there's plenty of things that we all fear that really we make bigger deals out of that really in the grand scheme are not there. You know, we're not there to hurt anybody. We're there to get everybody reps, teach them, train them, show them a way that they're not even going to probably think of because they've never been in this situation before. Watching it on Instagram and living it are two different things, right? And I think, a lot of kids and parents got to get over there's two things: the guys that think they've made it, that are scared, the guys that don't think they're good enough, right? And to do something like that. And they don't realize they're really the same person. This guy's just overconfident and probably grew a little early and played on the right teams growing up. This person's probably late to the game and just apprehensive and scared that they're not good enough, right?
Right.
There's a place for everybody in football if you work.
Right. Or they're afraid that they're going to impair their development by training.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? And I don't think they'll mind me saying it now, but Ryan Joseph, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who you just saw this past weekend at Mizzou, looking really great, man. You see how big he is.
Yeah, great.
It's just phenomenal, and an athletic guy. As an ninth grader even, his dad was like, oh, as I was on the phone with him, trying to get him to come into elite and start training. And he's like, well, I don't know, we don't want to mess up his development. I'm like, okay, he's a ninth grader who's 6'6", 215 pounds. Loved the basketball a little too much, but I could tell that his future was football, not basketball. So they came in, convinced them to come in. That was it. That's all they needed.
That's it. And didn't he do D-line when he first came in? And
wanted to do D-line, right?
He was
then tight end. No, he wanted to be a tight end.
That's right.
Remember, he played
7-on-7.
He looked great playing for Boone, running those routes. Couldn't catch a ball.
Right. So then you slide him to tackle.
And he even said, I think I'm going to have to play tackle.
I think that's the cool thing, though, because if once you open that door and you're willing, because we'll have conversations with people about it all the time. Like we'll talk through the process. It's not, you're not going to show you or I anything that we haven't seen before. Right. And the thing is, I know there's a lot of experts out there and newly minted experts that are out there. I gotta tell you,
I like that, newly minted.
Yeah, I don't rely on anything really for my playing experience much anymore. And there's guys that really rely on their badge of honor as how high of a level they played. There's a ton of those guys out there. I was reading a guy the other day, and it was basically like, how can that guy even evaluate when he hasn't played at the highest level? Well, the NFL is made up of guys in the front offices and the guys that evaluate talent. Most of those guys were not high-level players, but they know how to evaluate talent.
Right.
A lot of those coaches were not the best coaches, but they're high-level developers of men, especially in that college and early years of the NFL. So, to think that is the prevailing factor. No, experience and helping people. To me, you look at, hey, how many people has this guy been around that have gone on? I'm not talking about a guy that you catch that's in college and then he goes back to college, you train him for a few days. I'm talking about a guy that starts in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade that stays through the process, that is now starting in the NFL, starting at an SEC level, starting at the FBS level. Those are the pathways that you can then see that are similar to maybe get yourself in that vein, right, of development.
No, you're absolutely right. And that is the one thing. I don't care what anybody does, but that is the one thing that does irk me a little bit, are the guys who try to glom onto guys who've already been trained. They're already at a certain level. And then they'll like, hey, come train with me. And then they want to use them as in like promos.
It's
promo videos, like as if, these are my guys.
We're just going to go out to the field, and then I happen to have a camera guy there. Yeah. Like, you know how many times I have missed out on filming something really cool because you know why? I was coaching.
Yeah. Right.
You know what? I don't employ people to come film for us, right? I have a little guy will walk around and film. Little kids will film for us just for fun because
you're always trying to stick a camera in somebody's hand.
I don't put that much value in, hype clips because it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
I put more value in the relationship of what we're building and what we're doing skill development wise. That, it's just hard. It's hard to fathom, but that's, I think, the younger generation's programmed to think that that's success, and it's not success.
TikTok generation.
It's just not success. So, hey, a question that came up to me, because we're starting to see kids get offers, and I think we need to talk about this. How much time we got here?
You're good.
We're good.
I'll let you know.
So
I'm gonna be like, stop.
So what does an offer, what does it mean, right? An offer is an invitation, if you will. It's not what it was a number of years ago. There's a committable offer and a non-committable offer. So meaning, say you have a guy that needs 2 offensive tackles, they're going to bring in 2 offensive tackles. You could use it for any position group, but his position coach is told, like, hey, this is what you get. This is your allotment this year, right? Because there's number game that the scholarships they have to play with, and what availability they have, who they're losing, all that stuff, what their needs are. So you have 2 offers. They may offer 10 or 12 guys for those 2 guys. Make no mistake, in those 12 offers, they have them stack ranked and who their wish list.
They have a recruiting board,
right?
They have a recruiting board, and there's A, B, C, D.
Yeah, there's a recruiting board, and the guys are ranked, right? So let's say you're the number 11 tackle, and they offered you, and you really would love to go there, and then you say, I want to go there, coach. Well, they may slow play you. If they slow play you, that means they're waiting for someone higher up the list to make a decision. Okay. If they really slow play you, you might have already fallen off their board, right? And sometimes they'll be honest with you about it. A lot of times,
if you don't hear from them for a good minute, you might as well. I mean, that's
right. And that's
a good way to know.
It happens.
It does happen.
So they're going to offer 12 guys for 2 spots. They have their wish list for their number 1, 2, 3, and 4 that they're competing against probably everybody in the country for. That 5, 6, 7, 8 are guys that are probably more realistic that they're going to get, unless they're like a super high level program. So those guys get preferential treatment. They're the ones that they're probably talking to a little bit more. They're wooing them, and you might be the backup plan at number 11. Okay. And newsflash, they may come across another guy or 2, because someone like myself or JP may say, hey, have you seen this kid? Bam.
It's very fluid.
Real world situation.
Yep.
I gave a quarterback's name to a Big Ten school. And the guy said to me, oh man, are you kidding me? Like he couldn't believe the film on the kid, the measurables, all of it. He goes, my quarterback coach is going to be all ticked off. He's like, we've already recruited a bunch of kids. He's like, this dude's in the mix. He's going to be in the mix. He has to be. So then the quarterback coach watched it. The guy confirmed back to me. He's like, oh, he's a dude. We love him. Like, so thank you for bringing him to our attention. Okay. So guess what just happened? He didn't get offered by him, but he just bumped somebody off the board. Somebody's gone. They didn't even know what happened. And then, so he's now going to go up and visit. That whole process is going to start, and then it may work out for him. Okay. So the reality of it is that there's a lot of moving parts. So an offer is not necessarily mean that you have a space at that school for you at this point. It is okay to ask them what the timetable is. It is okay to ask them kind of where you fit on the board. Will they be honest with you 100% of times? Mostly not. Mostly, my experience is no. They're going to keep you. They're going to keep you, plodding along and you bring you down the path to follow them until they don't need you anymore. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, that's just a sad reality. And again, it's not an indictment on you as an athlete. It's not an indictment of anything you've done personally. It is more of a fit. It's more of a preference. It's more of what they're looking for at that moment in time. And a lot of times the head coach is the guy who has the final say. He may say, hey, we're taking 2 tackles this year, and last minute say, nope, you only get 1. I mean, and that happens, right? So I do think that we're going to see, though, more and more player personnel departments in these FBS schools, like true, like an NFL player personnel.
You're already seeing.
Like, I think we're going to see it like system wide, though. I think it's going to start to really have a layered approach, like an NFL organization is going to have, because the position coaches loathe recruiting, right? But they also have to build a relationship with the guy that they're going to be coaching. So it's a tough spot for them, but they're there to coach, right? And so, the number one burnout for those guys is all the recruiting stuff. It's not coaching. They love coaching. It's the recruiting stuff. 1 or 2 guys on each staff, though, are the guys that are known to be the recruiters, right? Those are the guys that are slick talkers and get in there and can really, get people to see it their way. Those guys, really are that hybrid between the coaching staff as well as the player personnel staff. But I think it's going to be, you have your GM, and then you got all your player personnel guys and scouts, if you will, internal. because the business is getting big, right? And as we're seeing, the SEC and the Big Ten are not playing nice with the other. It's the Power Two now, right? The other guys, they're lobbying for playoff spots for Big Ten and SEC to each get 3. Well, automatic bids, right? Well, that's huge money for those guys. Well, if that happens, kiss the other ones goodbye, and also it's just kiss the NCAA as we know it goodbye, because those guys are aligning, and the Power Two, as they pull more teams in selectively, it's just going to become a major coup for them. They're going to get the lion's share of the money. And then obviously that's going to reap benefits when they start to recruit, downline in the NIL era.
Right. It's really changed a lot in the last 10 years.
It's changed. It's going to change a lot more probably in the next 5, right?
Right. Exactly.
So,
now, is there anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
I don't know. I think I'm excited about the kids we have in our program right now. I'm excited to see how they start to prepare for this coming season, right? And like what happens this summer. We'll see some of that work go into the spring football practices, the Missouri spring football practices. So, some kids have been working, some kids haven't. I always pride ourselves on going to games in the fall and pointing out, not even needing a roster, because you can tell who's trained and who hasn't. So I'm excited for the pathway of the kids that are in our program right now, because I think we're going to have some really good results. And I think the offseason is going to be pretty fun between now and August.
Yeah, you'll be able to tell who has been doing work on the video games and who's been doing actual work to get better.
100%.
So that'll do it for us this week. We'll talk to you soon. Everybody stay safe. You want to give your social?
Elite Football on Twitter and Elite Football Academy on Instagram, and then Football 360 Show.
Football 360 Show, and we will talk to you soon. See ya.